And on today's show, how QLAC and MAGI correlate in retirement taxation. Part 3 of this week's series on the impact of QLAC and emerging insurance products in retirement with nationally recognized annuity expert, Mike McLaughlin. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and Innsmouth. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Mike.
It's great to be back again.
Mike, I'm telling you, day 3, we're into QLAC. We're into DIAs. We're going to have to now talk about MAGI, modified adjusted gross income. I think people have not graduated in their thinking using their 1040. Everybody's talking about adjusted gross, but the real game is now on the second page on modified adjusted gross. Now today we're going to be talking about some really cool ideas here, and I mean some really great ones. Let's go through an example. If you've missed our show Monday and Tuesday, I highly recommend you go out, watch the shows before you see this example, because you may get lost, because we've already kind of talked about some of this. Okay, now, Mike, look at this idea. We have a $750,000 IRA balance as of 12/31/13. And yesterday in your show, you said we're still going to have to recalibrate every year at the end of the year for the rest of our qualified monies that is not under the QLAC, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here we are at 12/31/13. So walk me through this for this 72-year-old male.
Yep. We have somebody who's 72 years old. They're not taking RMDs out of this particular account balance just yet. So they have other IRAs that they're using for income. They do not need money off of this $750,000. So 72-year-old male, you're using a uniform table set out by the IRS of 25.6, and you're just taking 25.6 into $750,000. That means that out of that $750,000, you would have to take nearly $30,000 of required minimum distributions. All right, and that's just a hard check that has to come out.
This is a client who may not need it or want it.
Yeah, and think about who our client is going to be that really impacts QLAC. It's going to be your mass affluent client. The scary part of our society right now is that the average balance of boomers fell from $120,000 back down to $111,000. So we're really targeting the mass affluent. Not that someone that has $110,000 may not want to defer $25,000 of RMDs, but we're really talking about that mass affluent.
Well, now in the federal tax bracket, and you're looking at the state, this could be a huge chunk of change here.
This is a huge chunk of change. You know, you're talking about maybe the highest marginal tax bracket, especially if they're still working or have other passive income that throws them into the higher tax bracket, using a state income tax here of about 3.4.
Which I thought was benevolent on your part.
Exactly, yeah. That's just Indiana, so you know that's what it is. So basically, you're going to be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of about $12,500 of taxes on your RMDs, so that you can basically defer that. Now again, you have $29,000 of required minimum distributions that hits that backroom technician form that hits your modified adjusted gross income, which is a big trigger for the amount of taxation that you have on Social Security.
Okay, now, and Mike's referring, of course, to the backroom technician Social Security provisional income test. And believe you me, this makes a big deal difference. The ability to defer this of 25% or not to exceed 125, it could be huge on your Social Security benefits. Everything's correlated on this sheet, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, and again, so many advisors will take a look and talk to clients about how much income do you need? How much income do you need to have this type of lifestyle at age 70, 75, 80, you know, the go-go years, the slow-go years, and then the no-go years, basically, down the road. Well, we have to get back to basics and pull back the onion a little bit and talk about it's not what you earn or what you pull out, but what you keep. That is impacted by Social Security, how much that is taxed by Social Security, how much that you can earn to make sure that you don't impact Social Security when you're under age 70, but also how much is it taxed. That's a huge play in it.
Now let's look at this example that we just walked through. So walk me through the math here, and so we can come to a determination of the impact of this.
Sure. First of all, we need to do what we talked about the first thing on Monday. We need to decide how much that we can actually defer into a QLAC. First of all, $750,000. You either take 25% or $125,000. So 25% of that particular account is $187,500.
So again, just for our audience sake, the number is greater than what they allow. 125 is our max.
Is our maximum
That's what we're using.
Exactly. So now you're left with $625,000 of an RMD balance. You use the same 25.6 divisor because, again, we're taking a look at that 12/31/13 account balance using the same 25.6 divisor into now the 625. That means you've reduced your RMDs down to $24,000. That's $5,000.
What was it again now?
It was
29,296. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a $5,000 saving just on the issue of what's exposed to tax.
Yeah, exactly. So again, think about from your modified adjusted gross income, $5,000 off the table right there. You also have a savings here. What was a big number here of about 11,000 or 12,000 here. You've reduced your tax bill by about $2,000 or $2,500 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So, when's the last time the most significant IRS legislation came down on IRAs? It was probably the Roth. Great idea, but the fact of the matter is that if you took advantage of the Roth, you had to pay tax on it right now. This is an opportunity that actually reduces your taxes right now, so it's a great opportunity as an alternative.
Again, we're introducing you to the concept of that you have to start thinking in terms of modified adjusted gross income, not just AGI. We'll be right back after the break and continue with our QLAC expose right after the commercial. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Welcome back to the second segment. Of course, we're with nationally recognized annuity expert Mike McLaughlin. Mike, we're talking about QLAC. We're talking about DIAs. Now we're talking about MAGI, modified adjusted gross income. Walk me through some of the basics on how this impacts our thinking now, because this is going to change the map.
Yeah, it does. I think that from a client perspective, a lot of clients are beginning to think about guaranteed income. And what better way to guarantee income down the road than with a deferred income annuity, which is placing $125,000 today into a contract with a guarantee of, I know that I'm going to have X amount of dollars. It's locked, set, in time. You know exactly that you got that in your hip pocket so that you can plan with your Social Security. And there are 81 different ways to take Social Security so that you can then manipulate to figure out what is the maximum way to take Social Security. You can plan for your other 75% of your IRAs to maximize and optimize that for a shorter period of time. Maybe most importantly, it allows you to take a look at a set time frame and manage your money to that set time frame, because one of the biggest challenges right now in managing money is there's no way to manage money with certainty if you have an unknown end date like life expectancy. So by taking a set period of, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, you can reasonably be assured that your money is going to last, knowing that you have guaranteed income backing that up.
And I think one of the great things, that we talked about this in Monday's show, we talked about this can go, you could defer this to age 85. So this is a huge opportunity. And then you could choose many payout issues, life 10, life only in 20, life 30, and you could even do a cash refund with that.
Absolutely. Just remember that you have to have a life contingency. Just like you were doing any 72T or 72Q calculation with RMD type of planning, you want to make sure that you have a life expectancy calculation.
Make sure, just for our audience and advisors, because we're always going through, you and I are walking through things. I don't want to walk over too fast. Walk me through this issue of what is phantom growth and why are we doing this to avoid this? What's going on here?
Well, I think one of the things that we always take a look at is, let's say that you go ahead and say, you know what, I want to lock in a certain amount of income. Well, you have, whether it's an income rider or whether it's stocks and bonds inside maybe even a non-qualified account, you have growth that's already built in there. And when you sell and start distributing that, you have phantom growth inside of that mutual fund on a non-qualified basis. So a lot of people have said, you know what, I have maxed out my income, I've maxed out my opportunity, so I'm going to start going to a non-qualified, just set up my Fidelity account. This gets away because when you start thinking in terms of income and what do I keep, that changes the game, and this is a great opportunity to make sure that we have growth of your income, not necessarily growth of the asset, which would create taxation for you down the road.
When we're talking about the basic industry's position, this is pretty simple actually. Once you learn it, it sounds, at first I thought it was a little complicated, but it really isn't that bad.
No, it's not.
And I love the guarantees. And I think you said yesterday's show that the consumer now has shifted in their thinking. We looked at a poll, then it said, hey, we may be willing to give up some control because you're giving us guarantees. And by the way, in Tuesday's show, Mike talked about all the way up to maybe 5% compounded depending upon the carrier. So I think this is a huge issue. Long-term yield curve for pricing. Walk me through that mechanics, because I want to make sure our registered investment advisors, they understand that we get this and we agree with them. This is why we think it's a good deal.
Yeah, we think this is a game changer for the industry. I think when I'm talking with a lot of industry and actuaries, they're thinking about how will this change the game from their general account. If they have 25% of their IRA assets all of a sudden backed up for 10, 15, 20 years, that means that they can get longer on the yield curve, because that's a contract that they know that they're not going to have to liquidate that income for that client until age 85. So they can place their assets at a much more defined and a longer yield curve. The other thing is we talked about, and you mentioned that IRI study talked about younger people being willing to take guarantees and lose control of their asset. That pendulum is swinging, and this is an opportunity that, first blush, a lot of advisors are saying, you know what, I'm going to pull all of my people who are age 70 and a half right now. You need to be looking at 45 or 50 people to get into a position of that. Take their IRAs, know that they're going to have qualified money, Social Security, manipulate that to maximize and optimize government programs and their other qualified monies, and then put this money, their IRA money, as a backstop. And then that way you can manage your money more aggressively and with more definition.
That's huge, Mike. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. See you tomorrow.